Hi guys, and welcome to today's session. So we're going to be finishing off this piece today. We've already got through the clouds, second pass over the clouds, and we've also done some work on the middle section, these rocks. And you can sort of see it's like fairly loose when you look at it up close, but if you zoom back, it sort of get back into the right position. Looked at up close, pull back a little bit there. Looked at further away, it sort of has a kind of consistency in terms of what it's depicting, which is these mountains. So the middle section has a lot of kind of like sort of more bluish tones than we have here, which we want to get in slightly bluer, darker tones, and then this layering of bushes, which are a lot darker, so we want to kind of go in and really punch out those bushes that are kind of almost black, and maybe a little bit of the flowers in the front too. So to start with, I'm going to use a slightly bigger brush, and I'm going to mix up some kind of greenish tones, similar to what we've kind of like nearly finished with last time. So I'm using a bit of black and blue. A bit more black, I think, there. And a bit of water. So using acrylics, like we have the last few sessions. So a little bit of So we can take a little bit of black, just to start to blend in a few slightly more precise details. I don't want to go super detailed with this midground section, like we didn't go really detailed with the background either. But we want to get just a little suggestion of detail here and there. Just so we got a little bit more going on. Pardon my cough if I cough a bit during this video. I'm a bit ill this week. So I want to start to get a little bit more kind of like lightness, a little bit more warmth into the ground as it starts to travel in the shadows. It's maybe a little bit too far, a little bit too yellow, so I'm going to mix a bit of alizarin crimson back into that. Because we're trying to keep the colours pretty vibrant, even in things like these shadows on this one. And because we can layer so quickly, we don't have to worry too much about how things are going to mix, etc. So yeah, that's looking a bit better. I'm going to take some black and alizarin crimson, and I want to try to start to get in slightly more intense colours. Because once we hit this point, this hillside is more like the immediate mid-ground. And I can just kind of drag that colour down. It's gonna create a little bit of a natural transition, which we can get quite easily with the acrylics used this way. Put a little bit more blue in there as well, so I'm actually just going to pretty much paint blue just directly over that sort of semi-wet paint. I'm going to take a bit of burnt umber and I want to just kind of wash down from those tones I just laid in. And just use that burnt umber just to wash like fairly loosely down over this lower section, down to roughly where the kind of road is, that road edge. I'm just using a bit of burnt umber mixed with the Ultramarine Blue, just to start to kind of patch in some of these little shrubs in the foreground. And also take some pure black just to start adding a little bit more detail and just kind of fixing in place our kind of darkest notes in the foreground. So you can see adding this kind of mid-ground detail, foreground detail, pushes the background further into the distance. It sort of leads the eye in a bit more in a much more interesting fashion than it was before adding this stuff. So it really kind of gets pulled together a bit by these additions, which is good. And we've also got some of these kind of nice little light grey rock shapes, which I'm going to try to get into in this mid-ground. Just because their tonal difference kind of breaks up the foreground a little bit. So I just want to get some, these sort of warmer tones as well in the mid-ground, foreground. Some bits of grasses and so on. Maybe a little bit darker, or mix a little bit of burnt umber into that golden colour. That's a bit better. And a little bit more, just pure yellow as well. I can pop in certain places. Sort of, see how that goes. Maybe a little bit too bright, that actually. Tone that down a little bit. Some burnt umber and alizarin crimson. And that's a better version of it. So I'll leave that kind of quite bright little piece in for the time being. And I'll do a little bit of a glaze over it near the end. And so I just want to pop some darker notes under some of these lighter shapes, gives them a little bit of pop. You can see it kind of brings them out of the the ground plane a little bit. I also want to take a bit of a grey and try to get some of those little sections, kind of rock sections a bit further in the background. Yeah, so that's not looking too bad actually. Just got a few more minutes. Might do a little bit more working with things like just the tree line here, maybe make a little bit more kind of detailed, break it up slightly more. Yeah, so I think that's looking pretty good. And you can see it wasn't actually too taxing, a bit easier than the previous sessions if you've watched those, getting some of those stronger colours in the central section, and the contrast was a bit tricky. Bit easier, I mean in some ways easier, some ways harder. There's a quite a low contrast in terms of tone in the foreground, which is a little bit tricky to deal with. But simpler sorts of colours, mostly browns and greys, not the same intensity that we get in the top section of the painting. But yeah, that's it for this this piece. Hopefully you guys have enjoyed the lesson through these videos. And as always, if you want to follow more videos from myself, other tutors, students from the school, you can subscribe to us on YouTube. And if you want to find out about the sorts of paid qualifications that we offer, you can click the link in the profile to check those out. So I'll be back with a new course starting next session. Until then, I hope you guys enjoy working on this project if you are, and I'll see you then.